city or a town, a frown. The business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts, the underground sound in a city or a town, a frown. The business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts. The underground sound is the voice within, to give ear to the spirit and to flee from sin, to live for Jesus and the praise of him, by not selling out for the praise of men, to do whatever it takes, no matter what the cost, to keep pushing up the weight, carrying the cross, straight bench pressing sin, defend the word that lacks, and your best mention him, or then you gon' die. Cause the underground sound in a city or a town, the business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts, the underground sound in a city or a town, the frown.
Oh, guys, I've had the weirdest day over here. So my buddy Scott Davenport, known him for like 10 years, he goes out and writes a book. Now, I don't even know if Scott Davenport can read a book, but he decides he's going to go out and write a book, allegedly. What's that mean? He got a few dollars saved up and he sent it to an editor? Okay, so he writes this book and he sends it to me, and he asked me to, hey, man, can you help me get the word out? It's like, Scott, that's not really what I do. I don't really get the word out. Like, I have a different audience with my relationship. I mean, I would tell him, this is one of the worst books I've ever read. It's edited right. Most of the periods are where they're supposed to be. There's a lot of punctuation errors. I mean, this book is really bad. It's like remarkably bad. My mother used to play once a month. She would go and play a game called Bunko. And she would always come home, and I'd always make a deal with her and say, Mom, you got to wake me up when you get home. Just let me know that you're home. And she always would. And she used to win something called the Booby Prize. And I was too young to know what the Booby Prize was. All I know is my mom came home with a gift, and it was kind of cool. Well, when I got older, I found out that the Booby Prize goes to whoever plays Bunko and gets last place. If you're the absolute worst player, they give you a prize as a gift. My buddy Scott Davenport wrote the Booby Prize.
We're live and alive on the Underground Sound with Larry, slightly irritated Pollock. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, I was just watching that your story, and I went through the comments, and man, it was cracking me up because people were just, they would have a sentence like the worst thing you could ever imagine. And then they'd be like, and I'm slightly irritated.
Yeah, those comments has been going on and on and on.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really crazy story, man. I mean, that's a lot to go through, and I think, you know, it's interesting because it doesn't seem like it affected you that much, but I think you said like after you got out of prison, you were just like dead inside for like 2 years or something, right? Did you say that somewhere?
Yeah, that initially when I was younger. Yeah.
So it did, obviously, then it did have a big impact on you going through all that stuff.
I think it did. And maybe even still does. Just subconsciously, I don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Is it people get stressed out about or whatever, I just don't take seriously.
Yeah. You're like, that's not even slightly irritating. Yeah, no, it was funny because when I was listening to it, you did say that a couple times. I mean, you're like, yeah, these guys, they had me tied up in my face blindfolded and punching me in the face. And you're like, and that was a little irritating. Oh man, that's crazy. So the reason I reached out to you though was actually just, it was the Mike Mentzer stuff. You know, I'm super interested in that, and you know, you actually lived with him for a year, huh?
Yeah, he was my roommate. It just was really coincidental thing. when I was a teenager training out of the Gold's Gym at World's Gym down in Santa Monica and Venice, I knew all the pro bodybuilders, and one of our friends just introduced me to him. And when I first met him, you know, he had been one of my bodybuilding heroes. I'd seen him in the magazines, but the day I met him, he didn't even look like a bodybuilder. He was small, downsized, with a little pot belly. And he hadn't been training in a while, since 80 Olympia. And I asked him if he would train with me, and he agreed. And then meanwhile, he said, "You want to move in?" And because I was looking for a place. I didn't realize moving in entailed also paying the rent and the food and everything else.
Yeah.
Because he didn't really work at the time. He just wrote articles for Weider. But so, yeah, we started training, and I was actually training for competition. He was just training just to do it. And every time we went to the gym, he got bigger and bigger. So within 3 months, he was just supersized.
Wow.
Real quick.
Yeah. So one thing I'm really interested about Mike is he always preached this totally different style with nutrition, with eating. You know, he always said like, oh, protein, you don't have to eat all this protein, and it's just calories. And as long as you eat less calories than you burn, you know, you could eat kind of whatever you want. Is that how he ate?
So I don't agree with his take on nutrition now that I know a lot more about nutrition. But I can tell you, Mike would take tubs of butter and put it in the freezer and eat it with a spoon like ice cream.
What?
Yeah. We would go to the Whole Food restaurant, and I would buy like I'd order my, you know, broiled chicken breast with vegetables on the side and whatnot. And he would get those little rolls and the little sweet butter cups. He put one roll butter on one small roll, and you just eat them by the handful.
Wow.
So, you know, I think Mike just had an amazing metabolism. For some people can digest all their food and just store everything. I'm not saying he had a fast metabolism, but he could digest anything. He could digest rocks and grow. So I don't think that would work for most people. But
So
he was actually fat when I met him. So I think when he would diet, he also had the type of body that, you know, he could hold on a muscle. So he could basically starve himself to death and do cardio and do whatever and just get shredded. If I did the same thing, I would disappear because I have a really fast metabolism. So I think his viewpoint on nutrition was probably based on himself, the fact that he could get away with eating very little food.
Oh.
As long as he trained, and, you know, we didn't even take a lot of gear, but took the gear that we did, he would blow up and he'd hold muscle.
Yeah, I think you said you guys just did MPP, and that was it?
300 milligrams every other day.
So you didn't do test at all? There was no
Nothing.
test, just MPP.
Just NPP. That was it.
Wow, that's crazy.
That was it. Pure NPP, 300 milligrams every other day. And yeah, no orals, no nothing.
Do you know if he did that for competitions? Was that what he did for competitions?
I don't know, because we weren't training for competition, but I was training for competition at the time, and that's what he had me doing.
Okay, so that he didn't say, "Oh, you should do this or that" because you're competing.
No.
Wow, that's crazy.
It worked. I mean, if you take a 300 milligram shot of MPP, you wake up the next morning, you're blown up.
Yeah.
From all the glycogen storage and everything. It works. And as far as anabolic effect, it works.
Is that something you would recommend to people like yourself as a coach?
Me now, no.
No.
I use NPP, but I don't recommend it like on its own, because for other reasons. I think you need a little bit of testosterone just for normal hormone performance. And you need some estrogen, which you do get some of that from nandrolone. But getting ready for a show, there's other compounds for hardening and conditioning that I think help. I think the guys in back then were probably not as conditioned as they could have been, maybe because they did just that. They just did deca and D-ball. So they didn't have the total grainy, hard look to them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to work because if you diet and you train and you got the anabolic effect holding muscle, yeah, it's going to work.
Would you even have someone do NPP into a competition, or is that more like an off-season kind of thing?
It kind of depends on the person and their blood work and how they react to it. Like if they produce a lot of estrogen or hold a lot of water, like I don't, no matter what I take, I don't produce a lot of estrogen. I don't hold a lot of water. I don't break out. I don't get acne. It just never happens.
Yeah. You look shredded, dude, right now.
I'm eating everything in sight and I'm not on a diet. Really? Like my body fat doesn't go above 4% year round. Like
that's crazy.
And I'm not trying to be at 4%. Like I actually eat to gain weight. I have to eat like 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day just to hold on to my weight.
Yeah, it's funny because I just competed in my first competition like a week ago, and you're like 10 times more shredded looking than me.
I'm always like this though, and like for me to diet for a show, it's literally 4 weeks, and I maybe drop a couple of pounds. That's it. Some water, and I'm ready.
So just genetics. That's genetics.
I don't know if it's just genetics. It's some genetics, but I've also been training since I was 13 years old, pretty much nonstop.
Were you training that way before you met Mike, like high intensity, or were you doing the volume stuff? And did you change?
So when I started, it was literally right before the 1980 Olympia.
Wow.
And the first bodybuilder that I actually met in person was Tom Platz.
Oh yeah, Tom.
Guest posing before the 81 Olympia, and he gave me his leg training manual, upper body training manual. And I read the magazines cover to cover back then. And then I started training in the gym with pros. So yeah, I trained high intensity because everybody really trained hard back then.
Yeah.
The people that did more volume still trained hard. I just didn't do not exactly the same low volume that, 1 to 2 sets per exercise like Mike did when I trained with him. It was more volume. Like I trained with Lee Haney and Gasperi before him. We did a lot more volume, but still trained hard.
More frequency, huh? Like a lot more probably training days with those guys.
No, not necessarily.
Really?
No, just more volume.
Oh, okay.
Still do each body part once a week.
What about with Mike? What were you doing with Mike body part wise?
I don't remember the exact split, but it was pretty much whatever we were working. It was 1 to 2 exercises per body part and 1 to 2 sets, 1 warm-up set and 1 all-out set to failure with forced reps and negatives. And I think we were probably training about 3 or 4 days a week.
Okay.
Doing each body part probably once a week.
Okay, so that was pretty similar then. Like what would a workout look like? Like if you let's just say like, I don't know, chest day. What would your chest day look like with Mike?
Well, you got to back up first. Before we even went to see, Mike was really into amphetamines, which part of his downfall. So before we even went to the gym, we'd take an Obitrol, which was like pretty much like an Adderall. And then we'd stop at the espresso shop that was next to the Nautilus and get a double shot of espresso and take these 5 milligram dexedrine spanchules with these fast acting amphetamines. So by the time we even walked in the gym, we were like
amped,
wired out of our minds. And there was, we just go straight to it. like no warming up, nothing.
Because your body's already, your central nervous system.
No, I'm not saying I don't agree with that anymore.
Okay.
Today I spend 30 minutes doing nothing but stretching and calisthenics and warming up with a massage gun before I ever touch a weight. But that's what we did back then. Yeah, we were all jacked up before just walking into the gym. So, you know, a typical chest workout would be like the Nautilus fly machine combined with a press. You know, basically one warm-up set and then one all-out set to failure, kind of like a superset. They had that machine. It was like a fly press machine.
Yeah. So you'd go from one, you do your flies or whatever, then you'd go straight to the pressing.
Yeah.
Would you do a warm-up set of the pressing like before your superset, or how did that work?
There would be one warm-up set with, say, you know, 80% of your maximum weight, and then you go right into the all-out set.
Oh, so you do a warm-up of both of those exercises?
Correct.
Oh, so you do like two supersets basically.
Yeah.
One's a warm-up. Okay.
And then the next one would be the all-out set to failure.
Wow. And then would you do forced reps and stuff on both exercises?
Yeah. Forced reps, negatives, everything. Total of failure, then forced reps, then negatives.
So how did you perform on those like presses? I mean, I would think that would really kind of like take a lot of your strength away doing that, you know, going that hard on the flies or whatever.
Well, you're not really caring about the weight.
Okay.
Powerlifting.
So you didn't even care how much you were lifting?
No, it's not about that. It was about the intensity and just pushing it to failure and beyond. The weight was just whatever you could lift for as many reps as you could get, plus the force reps and the negatives. It wasn't to see how much you could lift. So I've done powerlifting. I got into powerlifting later on. And there you're focusing on your weight. The weight's irrelevant. You're just trying to work the muscle as hard as possible.
Wow. That's interesting, because just as someone who trains, your ego kind of wants to always push heavy weights and stuff, like, so you kind of don't
it's not like we weren't going heavy. I mean, we went heavy as we could for the exercises, and we were strong, so we were lifting good amount of weight, but we weren't really counting the weight per se as like it mattered.
Yeah. So if you did chest, like, what else would you do on that day? Would it just be chest, or like what kind of split did you have going?
It would be like chest, shoulders, triceps.
Chest, shoulder, triceps.
And so we do that. Then we do a side lateral raise, and then a Nautilus tricep, a dip and a tricep extension. And that would be like the whole workout.
So 6 exercises total. 2 for each body part.
Yep.
Wow. So that workout probably didn't take very long.
No, not at all. In and out quick, but we trained really super hard. I got big doing that, really big, but I felt like my development wasn't as complete.
Really?
I just didn't feel like there were, looking back on it, I don't think there was enough exercises. Like, I still agree with the premise of the high intensity set and all of that.
Yeah.
And I don't think you need more volume in terms of doing, 10 or 20 sets, but there wasn't I don't think there was enough exercises to hit all the muscle groups completely.
Yeah.
Like if you're hitting shoulders, you have front, side, rear delts. If you're hitting back, you have a lot of parts of your back. So hitting, 1 or 2 exercises for back, I don't feel like it just wasn't enough. Not that you need to do a whole bunch of sets of a particular exercise, but I think we needed more exercises to hit all the body parts completely.
What did you do for back? Did you do like the Nautilus pullovers and the pull downs or something?
There was like the Nautilus pullover, and they had this weird Nautilus machine I haven't even seen it since back then. It was almost like a lat pull down, but you'd push down on the pads.
Oh, the pads were like right here.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
down. I have a Nautilus rear delt machine, but that goes back. This one you'd push down. So it would be like one type of like an underhand pull down, and then some kind of row and either the pullover or that thing. And that would be it.
So 3 exercises for back though.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pull over, pull down, row.
Yeah, and then like one warm-up set and one all-out set on each one.
Was that one done like supersets too, or was that
No,
one?
no, not necessarily.
And then on back, so then would you do back and biceps for back?
Yeah, and then you go to biceps, and that would be the Nautilus curl machine. And once in a while, we do like a cable one-arm curl. And that would be all of it. And I got to say, you know, Mike, I saw he blew up right before my eyes. In 3 months, he was huge.
Really?
Yeah.
Like he could compete again or something?
Like he was pro size.
Wow.
Like quick. Like he just blew up from that. And I got bigger from that. I just felt like I got bigger in size, but I wasn't as complete because we just weren't doing that many exercises.
What about for legs? What did you do for legs?
It would be like a leg extension, leg press, and then a leg curl, and that would be the whole thing.
And that was like that was for a whole year. That was kind of what your workouts were like, pretty much the same. Like, did he consistently train with you for a whole year?
Yeah.
He did. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, once in a while we would go to Gold's, but usually we'd go to this Nautilus Plus in Studio City or the Nautilus in Century City, some Nautilus place. Almost everything was done on Nautilus machines.
Wow.
Once in a while we use a cable for arms for something, and we do dips, free weight dips, body weight, or on the Nautilus dip with a belt, you can add additional weight. But yeah, it was all Nautilus, everything.
Did he ever talk about like Arthur Jones?
I mean, I know he got a lot of his stuff from Arthur Jones. I don't remember him he talked about Arthur Jones in that he was a crazy guy, and he told me about how Arthur pulled a gun on him and all of Arthur's wild exploits, but we didn't really talk about Arthur Jones training, because as far as Mike was concerned, it's his training that we were doing.
Yeah, so, he totally changed it, because I know Arthur Jones always like said to train your whole body in one workout, and I wonder why Mike split it up. You know, I imagine because it's probably just too hard to train your whole body, right?
Well, I do that with like when I train new people that just come to the gym that have never worked out in their life. I put them on a whole body, you know, bench, squat, deadlift all in the same day. But they're brand new, and we'll do that 3 days a week. But we're just trying to work on getting form down and developing the neuromuscular coordination and getting them used to doing exercises. We're not actually pushing the weight high intensity. Like I trained legs yesterday. There's no way I could have done anything else with that.
Yeah.
Like I'm still hurting, and I could barely walk out of the gym after that. There's no way I was going to throw in more stuff after that.
Yeah, go to back.
Yeah, no way. It couldn't. Like even on back day, I can't do biceps afterwards myself. Personally, I do calves first, and then I do back, because by the time I'm done with back, I'm so shot out. I don't have anything left. I could do biceps, but I have no strength for curling. Like my curling would be just nothing.
Because you're going so hard with your back.
I'm going so hard with my back. Like, I've tried it before, and like, whereas normally I could do a one-arm dumbbell curl with a 60 or 70 pound dumbbell, I'd be doing a 50-pound dumbbell because I'm just shot out already.
What does your training split look like now?
So it's kind of evolved over the years. Monday, I hit chest and triceps. Then Wednesday is calves and back. And Friday is shoulders and biceps, and Saturday's legs. My kitchen alarm is going off. Let me just turn this off.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I love the Mike Mentzer stuff, though. It's super interesting.
Sorry about that. That must have been something in the oven.
Oh, no worries, man. Yeah, so that's evolved to that. You said you train actually 4 days in a row, or like,
No. Monday is chest and triceps, and I group those together because I feel like when you do chest with all the pressing, it's already working your triceps. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't take much to finish triceps at the end of chest. Hmm. Now, most new people, I have them do chest, shoulders, and triceps on the same day. But me, myself, I don't do it. And the reason I don't do it is it's just too much volume for me to do in one workout.
Yeah.
I found for myself, if I just do like a couple of shoulder exercises, it's just not enough. I have to do front, side, rear delts, and traps for my shoulders to grow.
To get the whole thing.
Separate day. Like after I've done chest pressing and incline pressing, I don't really have strength to do any kind of weight for overhead pressing. I'm too tired already.
That makes sense.
You do triceps.
What do you do for chest? So flat incline, and then do you do like some flies?
So actually, I warm up on a fly machine. Okay. I actually use a cable fly machine, a seated one, and I'll warm up on that. And I'm doing that mainly just to really stretch the muscle and get a lot of blood into it before I'm going to hit the heavy compound movements. And the reason I do that is because I've learned over the years that, if I go straight into a heavy compound movement, I'm looking for an injury.
Yeah.
So I'm just really I'm not doing that so much as trying to get a lot of development out of it. I'm just doing to really stretch the muscle and get a lot of blood into it. So I'll do like 3 sets of flies, starting with a really light weight for just a lot of reps, working up to one harder set. And I'm just doing that to, again, stretch the muscle and get a lot of blood into it. And from there, I'll go right into a pressing exercise. And I used to do a lot of barbell pressing, but I had a shoulder surgery a few years ago. So the barbell, and if I don't have a good lift off, then that doesn't work. So lately I've just been pressing on a flex plate loaded press machine, and it works really well for me. So I'll go straight to that. And then from there, I'll go to incline dumbbell presses. And from there, I go to dips. And I usually do my dips now. Sometimes I do it free weight with body weight plus added weight, but a lot of times I'll do it on the hammer strength. I just feel like I get a better contraction.
Yeah.
So I'll go to dips, and then I'll do dips 2 different angles. One facing out, which focuses more on the chest, and then facing towards the machine, focusing more on the tricep. And then I'll do an overhead cable tricep extension. And I did that. I came up with that one because I found it doesn't irritate my elbows, whereas skull crushers really irritate my elbows. Or any type of overhead, like free weight extension, just inflames my elbows, but the cable doesn't. And I'll use a lot of weight on it. I have a selectorized thing that I can put in the pin and add 2 or 3 45-pound plates on top of the stack. And I'll do that pretty heavy. And then that's
like this kind of thing?
No, it's when you lean forward with the cable and you're pushing out this way.
Oh, like that. Okay.
Yeah, and I have it set up so I have a long cable attachment so I can lean all the way forward. And
okay.
It's basically like It's sort of like the movement you do in a lying tricep extension with a barbell, but because for some reason the cable doesn't hurt your elbows, but I still get the contraction of my triceps. And I go pretty heavy on that one. Like I said, I'll work up to the stack plus 2 45-pound plates for a drop set at my last set.
Do you still compete?
I competed not last year because of COVID, but the year before.
Yeah, I mean, you look like you could compete right now. I mean,
yeah, I've been competing since I was 16 years old. I won my first show when I was 16, and I won the USA's when I was 18. So,
oh wow,
I've done so many competitions. I don't know if there's nothing left for me to do competition wise, but it's still sort of in the back of my mind.
Yeah,
I always say I'm never going to do it again, but then I do.
Yeah. For some reason you get talked into it.
No, I just talk myself into it. I'll just be like in the gym training. I'm like, well, I'm already in condition, you know. I know I don't have to diet a lot to get in shape, but we'll see.
So and then you do back and calves. I
do calves first.
And this is all still sticking with the high intensity style though, right? You're doing warm ups to an all out set on your top
I always
set.
finish. I do. I really like drop sets.
Drop sets.
I prefer drop sets over forced reps, and I'll tell you why. You need a really good training partner who really trains with you all the time to know how to give you a proper spot on forced reps and to apply just the right amount of pressure. And I don't always have that, but I always can do a drop set, and I know just like unload this much weight, and I can get anybody just pull a plate off and keep going.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's good reasoning.
I do force reps if I have somebody that I'm training with that, you know, knows what they're doing, but it's not always the case.
Did you do force reps with Mike? Did you guys?
Yeah, everything was force reps and negatives.
Did you guys do the rest pause thing too? I think that was Mike kind of came up with that, didn't he?
I know it was part of his training, but I don't recall that we actually did that. No.
Okay.
No.
So just forced reps and negatives and.
Yeah, we all the way to failure, then forced reps, and then he would take the weight all the way to the top, and then he literally a forced negative where you try to resist, and he'd push down on the weight.
Was it just like insanely hard? Because I actually did a podcast recently with John Romano, and he said he trained with Mike before, and he said it was like the most excruciating pain, craziest thing he ever experienced in his life. Like he said he just did like a bicep workout, and he's like, I did a set for like 8 minutes. That's what he said.
Well, it might seem like that because keep going and going and going. I don't think that most people can train like that because not everybody is able to generate that type of intensity. And I find like I burn out training partners quick. I never have anybody last more than, 3 or 4 weeks. Even pros. And I'm not bragging or anything. They just don't last.
Yeah.
3 or 4 weeks, they're like, this shit's too fucking hard. I'm out. They don't ever tell me that. They just stop coming.
Yeah. They tell you without words. Yeah.
Something came up. I have to go do something today, and then that's it.
That's it.
So, I mean, like back then, we took amphetamines to train that hard. Today, I take a 200 milligram caffeine pill. That's my pre-workout. That's it. And I can train just as hard. But I've been training so long, I'm able to just put my mind into that place and go there when I need to. I've pushed people into those workouts. And like I said, I don't have anybody that lasts. I mean, usually most people don't want to come back after one workout, let alone continue to do it.
Yeah.
So like with training clients, I have to like really pull back because I'll just burn them out really fast.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't care who you are and how strong you are or what kind of condition you're in. You can take a set to failure and beyond failure, and to just keep adding more weight, they won't be able to do it. You know, even with myself, yesterday I did a leg workout. I did a leg extension, seated leg curl as my warm up. And I worked up to one drop set, real hard drop set on each one of those, and went straight into a pendulum squat. And I will say I did I would say it was 4 warm-up sets in the pendulum squat, because one was just 1 plate, then 3 plates, then 5 plates on each side. Then I did one with 6 plates, which would, I work up to like, I'll do a set with like 80% for whatever rep range I'm going to go. And then my final set was a drop set where I had 16 plates on there. And I did 3 reps. They pulled a plate. I did 2 more reps. They pulled a plate. Did 2 more reps. They pulled a plate. Did 1 rep. I was done.
Brutal.
And that set wrecked me. Like wrecked me. Then I went to a leg press. I did a leg press, 1 warm-up set for 10 reps with about 80% of max weight. And then I loaded the weight on there and then did a drop set where I got 4 reps to failure, pulled 2 plates off each side, did 4 more reps to failure, and then 4 more reps to failure. And then I was done.
So you like the drop sets. You use them a lot.
I use them a lot. Like I said, it's a way that you can go beyond failure. And I know exactly how much weight I need someone to pull off. And I can get anybody pretty much to just pull off weight versus somebody trying to give me force reps. They just have to know exactly how much pressure to apply and not too much and not too little. And, you know, I don't always have a consistent training partner that I can count on to do all that stuff. But with drop sets, I can grab anybody in the gym and stand there and pull this plate off when I ask you to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
I just keep going.
And so then what would be next for your leg workout? That's the end of it right there.
I finished off with some abductor machine, 2 sets on each. That was just to finish off, but that was it. And
that's what your leg workouts look like?
Yeah, I could barely walk. And I could barely walk today.
Wow. How about your back workout? What does that look like?
So I have a couple different ones because I really like deadlifting, but I found if I deadlift every week, after a few weeks, my lower back just can't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
I have to just burn out my lower back. So I deadlift every other week. So I'll have one workout where I start off with pull-ups, wide grip, and then a V grip. I'll do like 2 or 3 sets of each just to really stretch out and get blood in there again. And then I'll hit straight to deadlifts. And I'll work up to usually like a heavy set of 5 reps, sometimes triples, but usually I'll go for about 5 reps on whatever my top weight's going to be. And then from there, I go to T-bar rows. And I'm pretty much warmed up from deadlifts. So I'll do like 1 warm-up set, 1 set with 80%, and then I'll do a big drop set on the T-bar rows. Or I'll just have someone pulling off 45-pound plates to failure. And then from there, sometimes I'll go to a cable row, or sometimes I'll just go to straight to the reverse hyper and nautilus ab machine, and that's where I finish off. I finish off with reverse hypers and abs after my back workout. And I do that it's more of a therapeutic thing because the reverse hyper pulls tension on your back from the opposite direction from what you're doing deadlifting. So it's not so much I am going fairly heavy on my last set on it, but it's not to build a lot of mass or strength or anything. It's just therapy on my lower back.
You do the same thing just without the deadlifts on the other day?
So the other day, instead of pull-ups, I'll do pull downs on a flex leverage pull down machine. I'll start off with wide grip. I'll do like one warm-up set, then one set with 80%, and then a drop set. And then I'll do underhand, one set with 80% for about 8 reps, and then a drop set. And then from there, I'll go to some kind of wide grip row, either a lying barbell row. I used to do a lot of regular standing barbell rows, but lately I've been doing them on the rowing horse. And after that, I'll do a one-arm dumbbell row, and then it's back to the reverse hypers and abs. I'm done. But I feel like on back, I need a few other exercises in there just to hit all the different parts of the back, because there's so many different muscle groups in the back that you just, if you did just like one rowing exercise and one pull down, I don't think you can hit all the different parts of your back.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I did a podcast with Jean-Pierre Fuchs, and he said the same thing. He's like, I don't know how you could train your back with just a couple exercises, because he was kind of into high intensity training too, but a modified version. I think he used drop sets too, actually. I think that's what he liked to do.
Well, when you get to a point where your strength is at a certain level and you want to take the intensity higher, drop sets are pretty much the way to go, because the weight's so damn heavy that if you want to push a set past failure, it's really hard for someone, unless you have a really strong workout partner, to give you forced reps on a freaking leg press with 2,000 pounds on there. I wouldn't even trust that.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
So for safety purposes, but anybody could just pull off 2 45-pound plates and I can keep going.
Yeah. How about for shoulders? Is it shoulders and biceps, was it, or
shoulders and biceps?
So what does that day look like?
So I had a rotator cuff, torn rotator cuff a few years ago. So I start off with I actually do more volume for shoulders, because the first part of my shoulder workout is just like a really extensive warm up I do 3 different cable exercises in a big giant set. It's one rear delt cable, one high row pull, and then I do an overhead seated press cable. But I'm not using a lot. It's not really to use a lot of weight. I'm just really trying to pump a lot of blood in there before I get to my heavy stuff.
That makes sense.
So then from those, I'll do 3 giant sets of that. And like I said, I'm not doing this for hypertrophy or growth necessarily. It's just I need to really warm up my shoulders good before I get to the heavy stuff. So then I go to a machine lateral raise, and I'll do one warm-up set, one working set for about 10 reps, and then a drop set. And then from there, I do the Viking press. And I love the Viking press.
And so in that, you're using a little bit of momentum, like a little bit of...
No, not necessarily. It's just...
you do it strict?
Well, sometimes I use a little momentum on the last couple reps, but that's not why I use it. Because of the rotator cuff tear I had, overhead straight over. I used to be able to do seated dumbbell presses with like 140-pound dumbbells.
Wow. But
after I had this rotator cuff surgery, like overhead presses just kill my shoulders. But the Viking press, I can go really heavy on it, and I feel no pain in my shoulders at all.
Wow.
So I'll go to the Viking press. I'll do like one warm-up set, one set with about 80% for about 8 reps, and then 1 or 2 all-out sets. I don't do drop sets on the Viking press because it doesn't work. You have the handle on there. You can't really pull off weight. So I'll go 1 or 2 really heavy sets on that. And then from there, I go straight to superset between shrugs. And I have this shrug apparatus that I've never seen anywhere else. It's like something somebody built. It's like a cage that sits on the ground, and you can just load plates on it. So you can do perfect shrugs and put as much weight as you can pile on there. So there I'll start with 1 plate. I do 20 reps, and then I go back and forth between that and a rear delt machine. And I'll do 3 sets on each. And my last set is a drop set, where I'll take a weight that's maximum weight. I can do 5 reps. I pull it down, pull a plate, do 5 more reps until I end up getting 20 reps at the end. And so but that one all out set is harder than all the sets that I did before that. Like everything else was just, I don't feel like, probably I could go into that all out set and get the same benefit out of it, but I'm risking injury. Just going straight to that heavy weight. So I'm just kind of preparing by doing a couple high rep sets, working up in weight, preparing for that all out set. Because I think if you just go straight into a heavy, like maximum 100% weight drop set without some warm-up sets, you're probably going to hurt yourself sooner or later.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to work as far as growth goes if you don't rip yourself apart.
Yeah.
So
would you train in a high intensity fashion still when preparing for powerlifting competitions, or did you change your method and style?
So I trained with Scott Mendelson for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
On bench press. I mean, he doesn't squat or deadlift, but I trained with him on bench press. He taught me how to bench press. And I mean, our workouts on bench press was 3 sets of 3 on the regular bench press. And then we do 2 sets of close grips for 5 reps. That's all he does. And then some accessory stuff. And I mean, very little accessory stuff. Like at the end of the bench workout, we do some rear delts and I think that was about it.
Wow.
Yeah. But he's just, if you're purely focusing on powerlifting,
yeah,
and you don't care about anything else, then yeah, you're just going to focus on the 3 lifts. But the volume is still pretty low. I mean, considering other than a couple warm-up sets, we do 3 working sets and then bench press and 2 close grip bench. That's 5 sets and your workout's done. That's it. The whole thing's done. And squat would be pretty much the same thing. Work up to 3 sets of 3. Lift with the same thing, 3 sets of 3. Right now, I do a little higher reps on my deadlift because I'm not training strictly for powerlifting. But I will tell you this. The whole time I power lifted, because I have a bodybuilding background, I always did more accessory work because I always still trained my arms and my calves and shoulders. So I did everything. So I would do my powerlifting, my flat bench, but then I also did incline dumbbells, some kind of fly, and, other tricep stuff.
Did you ever do like speed work stuff? Like that kind of stuff?
I tried it with the bands with the West Side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried it. It didn't do anything for me. I like chains and I like bands. So I use bands. I even use bands now for added tension. And I like chains on squats. But as far as I tried that Louis Simmons thing, taking like a lightweight with some bands on it, and you do like a bunch of reps and you put it down, and then 30 seconds later you do it again and you do like 5 times.
Yeah.
I just didn't do anything for me. I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of people say that.
I tried it. Like I've tried everything. I've tried every kind of workout, every kind of thing, just to try it to see if it works. And to be honest with you, I'm sure there's maybe I did it wrong, but it didn't do anything for me. What worked for me was just basic heavy lifting.
What did you like better, powerlifting or bodybuilding?
So I started as a bodybuilder, and I competed through my teenage years as a bodybuilder. I won the USA when I was 18, took second to Teen America, Sean Ray. At the same time. And my first powerlifting meet, I didn't know anything about powerlifting. I mean, I knew about it. I'd heard of it, but I knew nothing about training for it or anything. And actually, I was in prison, and they told me there's a powerlifting meet tomorrow. So I just went and entered it and won.
Wow.
and I beat and then I won every powerlifting meet they had for like 5 years.
Wow. For 5 years? How long were you in there for?
5 years, and I think 5 years, 4 months in the first time. But every year I had a big powerlifting meet, and they had some really good powerlifters there, but I always won.
And I'm guessing you were natural then.
What's that?
I'm guessing you were natural, right? In there?
Oh yeah.
Kind of had to be, right? I mean, did you use steroids before you went to prison?
Yeah, I did.
What was that like, coming off of them and all that stuff, like kind of being forced to? What was that like for you?
Well, I mean, initially when I went into the county jail, I was in there for 14 months fighting my case. And of course I got really skinny because you're starving to death in there and there's no weights, no nothing. But when I got to prison, I got a job working in the kitchen so I could eat a lot of food, and went back to training. And I got really big and strong pretty fast with no gear. And yeah, the whole time I was in there, I trained hard. And I mean, my first powerlifting meet, I did a 601 pound squat, 405 bench, and a 585 deadlift.
Wow.
20 years old. I mean, that's not record breaker or anything, but I had no gear, nothing back then. Yeah. I think I probably weighed about 220 pounds, maybe.
Wow. No, that's super impressive, man. I mean, especially just being all natural and everything.
But I had 7 years of bodybuilding training under my belt before I went in there.
So how much did you lose, like having to come off of steroids? Like, what do you think you were doing before that? Did you stay pretty much as strong as you were? Or?
So like I said, my first 14 months, I was in a county jail and I lost everything. But once I started training again, I got my strength right back. 100%.
Like right back to where it was? 100%?
Yeah, 100%.
Wow. That's really
100%. Actually, I got stronger.
Stronger even?
Yeah, because I started training with powerlifters in there, and they actually had a powerlifting team. They taught me how to powerlift. So I got stronger and actually bigger.
So do you think steroids do more just for how you look than your strength, or?
No, they work for recuperation and everything. They definitely help you recuperate from your training, and you can take it to another level. But I think people think it's they put too much emphasis on the drugs.
Yeah.
Where it's, if you're eating enough and training, you can get big and strong without any drugs. I have a trainer in my gym. He's never taken a drug in his life. The guy's a freak. The one thing that steroids do is you can stay in a anabolic state while being on low calories.
Okay. Yeah, you don't go catabolic.
So you can diet and get shredded and not lose all your muscle.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But if you eat a lot and you get enough rest, you can get pretty big and strong without any drugs. I've seen plenty of guys do it. And I did it for 5 years with nothing, literally nothing. And I still train. I train there just as hard as ever. But also remember there, besides the little job I did and went to school and nothing to do but eat and sleep.
Yeah.
So it's not like out here where people out here, they're not getting enough sleep. They don't eat properly. I mean, they don't eat enough. So a lot of people look to the drugs as they're trying to get away. They're trying to find a quick way to get around the hard work and the eating.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And there is no quick way. The drugs aren't going to do it. You show me somebody who takes a bunch of drugs and doesn't train hard and doesn't eat properly. I'll show you somebody who, as soon as they stop lifting, or go off the gear, they lose everything.
Yeah.
Because it's not real muscle. It's just blow up. So yeah, it's going to help you recover from the training. But if the training and the nutrition isn't right, then the drugs really don't do anything. I don't think.
That absolutely makes sense what you're saying. I mean, it's just something that could maybe take you to a little higher level if you're doing everything right.
Yeah, if you're doing everything right. But I've seen a ton of guys take a bunch of drugs and they look like garbage.
Yeah.
They don't look like anything because you watch them train. They barely train. They don't put any effort into it.
And your recommendations are pretty basic too, right? I mean, you said I saw a video. You said that Deca is like your favorite thing for strength and stuff. Like
Deca and test. That's it. If you can't grow on Deca and test, then you got shit genetics.
And that's super basic. That's like simple.
Yeah, but steroids. There's a million different compounds, but they're all testosterone derivatives. Either a NOR19 or a DHT derivative. There's no super steroid. People came out, remember that Ment stuff came out a few years ago and people were like, this is the most anabolic, most powerful thing.
Yeah.
Has more power. Bull crap. That stuff is crap. Aromatizes at a high rate, and you just get bloated.
Yeah.
There's no special super steroid. There's no steroid that's super strong, with the exception of Trenbolone. But I have reasons why I don't like Trenbolone. And when I was young, I was really hooked on Trenbolone. I thought that was just the shit. Because it works. It definitely works. You get strong, you get shredded, you get bigger, everything. It works. But it has a bunch of side effects that come with it.
Yeah.
That I feel like I can get just as strong with nandrolone and testosterone without having to have a bad attitude all day long.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's kind of a trade-off, right? Like you might get that really good results, but is it worth it if it's making you crazy?
Well, it's not just that. Every major injury I've ever had was involving Trenbolone.
Really?
Yeah.
Did it make you super aggressive?
So it wouldn't make me super aggressive and like I would be all day walking around aggressive, but I'd have a really quick temper. So something that normally I might overlook, I would just snap.
Yeah.
And I don't really need that.
What caused the injuries?
Yeah, I've torn muscles on that. I've torn my abductor, torn my lat, just different. And I don't know if, I think there's certain compounds that pull the water out of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just makes you more susceptible to injury. And Trenbolone is one of them.
Yeah.
I don't mess with DHT things like Winstrol, Primabolin, all that stuff pulls the water out of you. Now, right before a contest, you need that because you want that hard, dry. But I'm talking, you need that like last couple weeks. You don't want to be pulling water out of you a month out.
I didn't realize Primabolin did that. Primabolin dries you out.
Sure, it's a DHT derivative. It doesn't hold any water. There's no estrogen conversion. So if there's no estrogen, there's no water. If your water level is really low, your muscle fibers get really dry, and that's where you get that really hard look. But you also can rip stuff, tendons, ligaments, and muscles. You tear things when you're all dried out all the time.
And DECA is the opposite, right? A DECA actually
DECA actually adds fluid to your joints, to your muscle fibers, and makes things more flexible versus making you super tight.
If you were going to compete, say, or even for your last competition, did you use DECA pre-contest, or would you switch to Tren or something?
So I switched to what I call a microdose of Tren. I was just doing 30 milligrams pre-workout 4 times a week, and I did that the last month. That's it.
So just super low dose.
Yeah, because people don't realize if you don't take something for a long time, it's going to be very effective when you do take it. And you don't need a whole bunch. 30 milligrams got me jacked through the roof. So I didn't need more than that. And then, I was taking EQ and Primo, and then halotestin at the very end. But you know what? At the very end for a contest preparation, you're going for that hard, dry look. So you need those hardening compounds. But you don't want to be doing that all year long because you're just going to tear stuff. A lot of people got this. I'm on this one message board and people are really into Mastron. And I think Mastron's the greatest thing for hardening you up right before a show. But I would not want to be like that all year long because you're looking for an injury. Like as it is, I do a lot of stretching, a lot of deep tissue work just to try to avoid injuries because you can't train high intensity if your muscles are like this and you have no flexibility. Mm. And so like I said, I do a lot of calisthenics, a lot of stretching. I get deep tissue work every week. Before I train, I use a massage gun all over myself.
Do you do cardio?
So I don't really do a lot of cardio. And I'll tell you why. My metabolism is so crazy fast. I can barely get enough food in every day to just hold on to my weight. And I do feel like the way I train, I'm pretty much getting a good amount of cardio during my training. And I don't really need to lose any fat. I've added in cardio before shows. For me, it's not a good thing. It just eats up my muscle. Like my cardio for my last show consists of walking my dog on the beach for 20 minutes in the morning. That's about as much cardio as I can get away with. Now, for other people that have a slow metabolism and that hold muscle while they're dieting, definitely I would have them doing cardio. Like my girlfriend's a competitor. Her metabolism is the opposite of mine. It's hard for her to lose fat. And she can hold muscle eating barely anything. So she can get away with doing a bunch of cardio. Actually, I trained with Nasser for a show back in the 2000s. He was prepping me. And
Nasser or somebody?
Yeah, I trained with him for about 5 months.
Wow.
And he wrecked me. Like we would meet every morning, do an hour of cardio and abs, and then go back in the afternoon and train with weights. And then he had me do another cardio session at night.
So for your body, that's just eating.
I went from 230 pounds, almost in contest condition, to like 196.
Wow.
In like 5 weeks and lost freaking 30 pounds of muscle and couldn't get a pump freaking save my life.
Wow.
But I did it because this was Nasser and this weight. I knew while I was watching myself just disappear in the mirror, and he had me on this crazy strict diet. Like I can't do that. My body, my metabolism is too fast.
Because he's probably the opposite, right? He's like
if Nasser wasn't a bodybuilder, he'd probably be a 450-pound fat man.
Wow, that big.
Because he did like an hour of cardio every morning with a 30-minute ab session, then weight train, then sometimes come back and do more cardio at night. And just to stay in shape. And this is not getting ready for a show. This is normal training through the year. He did this.
Was he a super like funny guy to be around? Because like I hear all these stories, and like I read that thing that he, the little thing he did on Milo Sarcev and Dave Palumbo. I mean, and it's hilarious. Like I couldn't stop laughing when I was reading this thing. I was like, dude, this is like the funniest thing I've ever read in my life.
I got along with him, but I got to tell you, the guy was really bitter.
Really?
Like, yeah, really bitter. Just like.
Oh, because he didn't win?
Yeah.
So he was like Mike then in that way.
Mm-hmm. They really bitter about it, and just kind of angry. Wow. I mean, most of the time.
Really? Just like he was just a bitter guy to be around.
Well, yeah, and he had some, I don't want to really talk shit, but he had some mental issues, I think, because.
Nasser?
Yeah, I mean, this is like 5 years after he stopped competing, and he's telling me that he said from shooting all the synthol, it created so much scar tissue in his body that he was having constantly getting deep tissue work to try to break it up. And he said it was spreading through his body like a cancer. And it was really gnarly. And then he comes in the next morning, he flexes his bicep and he goes, I did this here and here with the synthol. And I'm just like, wow, man.
Whoa.
Like, as he's telling me how bad this stuff is and it's jacking him up, he's still doing it.
See, so when I interviewed Jean-Pierre Fuchs, he told me that Nasser, he was like, the thing about Nasser is he never could get it out of his head that there was still a way for him to become Mr. Olympia. Like, to the day he died, in his mind, he was trying to figure out how he could win still, even when it was like he's going down, he's like not placing well, and you know what I mean? It's like, it's over, you know, it's like, it's not going to happen. But Jean-Pierre Fuchs said that he just couldn't let it go.
He didn't talk to me about competing again, but he still lived that lifestyle. And he never backed off at all. Like I said, every morning was an hour of cardio and 30 minutes of abs. And every afternoon was weight training and sometimes more cardio later. And he's always staying on a pretty strict diet. Never went off the gear. And like I told you, I don't know why he was still doing synthol, but he still was. It was messing him up.
It's interesting because Mike was the opposite, because you said Mike just completely stopped training, right?
Completely stopped. Didn't look like he didn't lift weight. He looked like someone who barely ever lifted weight in his life when I first met him.
That's so weird.
But like he was a genetic freak too. He was a super responder. Like I said, as soon as we went to the gym, it was like every day it was like,
Was that the craziest results you've ever seen on anybody before?
Him, or I would say maybe Danny Padilla.
Oh, Danny Padilla.
See, these guys back in the 80s, they would literally take 8-9 months off the gym and then come in and get ready for show. Like, they wouldn't train at all.
Wow.
And so I'm not saying I agree with this, but that's what they did. And I remember Danny Padilla came into World Gym one day and I didn't know who he was. I saw him at the top of the staircase and I was a teenager, but I was pretty big. I was probably about 230. And he looked like the dishwasher, this little Cuban guy that, like, 12-inch arms, just this little tiny guy coming up the stairs.
Yeah.
I recognized him and I'm like, and I said, who is that guy? He looks familiar. And he says, that's Danny Padilla. And I swear he was getting ready for Olympia. And it was just like, he went from 12-inch arms to like 19-inch arms in 2 months.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
And this is on 5 foot. Maybe he was 5'2" or 5'3".
Yeah.
Yeah. So
19-inch arms.
19-inch arms on like 5'3". He was all blown up.
That's incredible.
Yeah, Mike, same thing. He just went from like nothing to just huge, very quick. But remember, that's regrowth.
Yeah, it's different.
Same thing, like after I went to that 14 months of being stuck in that county jail and not training or anything, I went right back to training when I got to state prison, and I got big pretty damn fast with no gear.
Yeah.
Muscle memory. Once you've had it, it comes back.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever see Robbie Robinson around?
I did. I was actually hanging out with Victor Richards, and he was competing in a Junior California, the one show I think that he ever did. And Robbie was guest posing. And I was backstage with Victor and Robbie, and Victor looked like 3 of Robbie Robinsons.
Yeah, that's a big man. Yeah.
Yeah, he dwarfed him. Robbie had shape, but he was small. At least when I saw him. He still had the peak biceps and everything, but he looked like a midget next to next to Victor Richards, but I think everybody did.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that guy was freaking enormous. Robbie claims that all he ever did was DECA his whole life.
I believe it.
Really?
I think that's all that Mike pretty much did too.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think that's all he did? You don't think he ever did anything else, really? That's crazy.
I told you all we did was NPP, 300 milligrams every other day.
And you said you saw him he
Blow
looked like pro.
Yeah, blow up. I mean, he wasn't dieting or anything, so he wasn't conditioned, but he got huge.
What year was that? Like, what in time? How far from the 1980 Mr. Olympia was that?
So I was getting ready for Teen America. So I would have been 19 at the time. So let's see. I started training at 13 in 1980. I think that's about 88 or 89.
And he hadn't trained since 1980?
Well, I don't know if he never trained since then, but when I met him, he hadn't been training since I don't know how long. He hadn't been training at all.
What do you think that was about? Like, I mean, because, like someone like you, obviously, you're going to train always, right? No matter what. Why
he was so angry and bitter about that 1980 Olympia. He just couldn't let it go.
So he literally didn't train out of spite.
He he wasn't going to compete. So I had to bribe him to train with me.
Bribe him?
Yeah. Mike had an amphetamine problem.
Oh, so you're like, I could help you out if you trained with me?
Like literally every day, I'll take you to the freaking meth dealer before we go to the gym to get him to go to the gym.
Wow, really? That's how you did it. That's genius.
Well, I wanted to train.
That's great. I mean, that is a great story,
I wanted to train and he wanted to do drugs. So
like you made it happen. So you also trained with this guy, huh? I actually did a podcast with Mike Sable too.
Oh, he was my first prep coach when I was 16. He trained me for my first show.
What was he like?
As far he was
I guess personality wise, and I mean he's a conditioning guy, right? Like legs and
he was always crazy shredded. He was big on cardio. I got shredded. So I trained. I think he mainly did my diet. I didn't actually train with him. Like he showed me some stuff in the gym, some exercises, but I kind of was doing my own training.
Oh, so he did your diet?
He did my diet. Yeah, he did my diet, which I did when my first show with him because I didn't know anything about diet.
What was your diet like under him?
So back then our diet was like super. It was like everything was wrong from what we know now.
Yeah.
First of all, we would eat with paper plates and plastic utensils because you couldn't get any sodium in you, and drink distilled water.
Oh God.
Sodium was like the devil. If you got sodium in you were going to blow up and you're going to lose all your. And so basically we would get shredded, but we'd be flat. So everybody was shredded, but flat because sodium was like, you wanted to avoid sodium at all costs. When I trained, when I was 18 and I won the USA, I lived on red snapper, lettuce, and distilled water for probably about 2 months.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, God.
And I was doing cardio an hour every morning, training twice a day, and eating red snapper, lettuce, and distilled water, and fast and diet pills and Trenbolone.
So you were shredded.
Oh, I was crazy shredded, but I was flat, but shredded. I mean, I had cross-striations in my quads, and this is back when people didn't have cross-striations.
What were your workouts like, though? Was it really hard being on that kind of?
I remember one time I walked into World Gym, and I was like delirious. I remember I bumped my head into like one of the cable pull down bars that was hanging there. And Joe Gold said to me, "Hey kid, are you all right?" I'm like, Like I wouldn't even talk.
Yeah, you're just wiped out.
It took too much energy to talk. Like my whole vocabulary consisted of That was like, I didn't want to talk to anybody because I have energy. Yeah, but I was training at World Gym and I was going to my first big competition. And as far as I was concerned, like I would have done anything. Like I was not going to go back, not winning. So that's what I did.
Wow.
And he prepped me for that. I don't know how I came up with that diet, but that's just what I ate. That's all I ate.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I did that for like 2 months. And I don't think I barely slept for the last month. I don't even know if I even slept at all.
Because you just couldn't? Because you're just dying?
Well, I was taking those fast and diet pills, so I was probably wired all the time.
What were those? Was that popular then, back then, to use stuff like that to lose fat?
Yeah, it was. And I don't remember. Someone told me to get it, and it just basically killed your appetite completely. So you could just starve. So yeah. You just take that and have energy to go work out instead of eating.
Wow.
But
you probably didn't need that at all.
What's that?
You probably didn't need that because you're naturally shredded, you said, right? Like you're naturally really lean.
Yeah, probably that was way overkill.
Yeah.
It get shredded. I mean, I was insanely shredded. But I remember I saw Gasperi in the gym. He was one of the guys I train with sometimes in the gym. Right after I won the show, and I showed him my pictures, and he said to me, you can be a little more. And I just looked at him and was like, more?
Damn.
Like, I just thought there's nothing more I can do. I starved for 2 months. Now looking back, and I know what he meant, I could have probably been even fuller and tighter if I probably ate more food, but we didn't know any better back then. So that's what we did.
Yeah. When did you learn? Like, when did you switch that up and change that? And like, what would that evolve into? Like, what do you think now for diet and stuff?
So I eat a lot of salt. I drink about 2 gallons a day, and I put like 2 tablespoons of Himalayan pink salt in my drink.
Wow.
And I take in a lot of sodium. And I would never cut it. Because see, your body regulates sodium with aldosterone. So what if you don't take in sodium, your aldosterone is going to go high and you're going to become super sodium sensitive. And then if you take even a little bit, you're going to blow up full of water. But if you're taking a lot of sodium, your aldosterone goes down. And then any extra sodium, you're just going to piss it out. It's not going to hurt you. This idea that sodium is bad for you, that's all wrong. But you need sodium in your muscles because, that your muscles are mostly water. And if you don't have sodium to hold the water in your muscle, you're going to be flat. And you're not going to be able to train as hard. You're not going to get good contractions. You're not going to get good pumps. And you're just going to be flat. So you actually need salt. It's not this idea that salt is bad. No, not having salt is worse. And this has been proven medically now. So yeah, I take in extra salt. I put salt on my food. I put salt in my liquid because it helps me hold water, which I need to stay full, which allows me to be able to train and not rip things in the gym and get pumps. You don't take sodium, you won't be able to get a pump in the gym, no matter what.
Yeah. How about for like protein, carbs, fats, stuff like that?
So it depends on like who I'm dealing with. If I have somebody that's, like most people that are too much body fat, I'll put them on a pretty high protein, medium carbs and medium fats. And, but if someone like myself, I need a lot of carbs and extra fats because I burn through stuff too fast.
So both, you do higher fat carbs and fats.
Higher carbs and fats, but I don't use too much saturated fats. I'll use like a lot of almond butter and hemp hearts and macadamia nut milk and things like that to get my fats in. But I do use whole eggs.
Whole eggs.
Yeah, I need the calories. Like my body just burns through calories too fast.
So that keeps you feeling good then, those extra fats, makes your energy better and everything.
It keeps me full too. Yeah, otherwise I burn through. If I take just carbs and protein and low fats, I just burn through food too quickly.
And you're just starving all the time.
I'm just starving all the time and I'm flat and I have no strength. So yeah, it keeps me strong in the gym. But now other people, like, they don't have my metabolism. They're going to get fat probably eating what I eat.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to necessarily put them on the same kind of diet. You know, most people, they come and they're, 30 pounds overweight and they're trying to lose fat and gain muscle. They're going to go on a low carb, high protein, medium fat diet. Maybe eating the same sort of foods that I eat, but the ratios are going to be different.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But it's all depends on the individual and, where they're at and how they're responding.
And then what about cardio? What are your thoughts on cardio? So for yourself, you don't do cardio. If someone wants to lose weight, you're going to have them do cardio. And what are your thoughts on fat burners? Is there any that you like?
So I don't, like, over the years, I used to be way into pre-workouts and all this kind of stuff. I don't use any stimulants myself. And I don't use any pre-workouts, and I don't think they're needed. Like I said, I use a 200 milligram caffeine pill. That's it. Before my workout. That's equivalent to 1 cup of coffee. And one little capsule of Yohimbe. But other than that, I don't use any DMMA or I don't really like to be over speeded out while I'm training. I think it causes you to lose focus. If I'm too wired out, I can't focus as hard on my sets because I'm like too wired. I'm too amped. And because I don't take any stimulants, ever, when I take a 200 milligram caffeine pill, I'm jacked up. My bulldog wants to go outside. Let me tell my girlfriend. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Can you take him out?
What about like clenbuterol and like T3? What do you think of that stuff?
So I love clenbuterol. I hate T3.
Love clenbuterol, hate T3. Why?
So clenbuterol is real good for the last few weeks of contest prep as a fat burner. And it also preserves muscle.
Oh, it does. I didn't know that.
Yes, it has a slight anabolic effect. Or not anabolic, but it keeps you from going catabolic. So it's a great fat burner. Only the last few weeks before show, and because you build a tolerance to it really fast. Even if you use what is this stuff? There's a stuff you take with it that keeps you from building a tolerance as fast, but you build a tolerance to clenbuterol pretty quick. So maximum you can use it is like 4 to 6 weeks before it doesn't work anymore. But it does preserve muscle and it's a good fat burner. T3 eats muscle.
Oh, it does.
Oh yeah, it eats muscle for energy. So I use T4 because your body, T4 works synergistically with growth hormone, and your body will convert as much T4 as you need to T3 at the right ratios that you need and no more. But most people take T3 and they take too much of it and it just eats muscle.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So unless somebody has like a really slow metabolism and a really low thyroid, I don't even go to T3. I think if you put T4 with a little bit of growth hormone, you're going to burn fat.
You like growth hormone a lot?
In a very low dose. Like for me, it's 2 units 4 times a week. That's it.
Super low.
Super low. I have Crohn's. And
you do?
I've figured out that like I can't do more.
Wow.
if I do over 2 units, so 2 units is good for me for recovery. But more than that, and I start getting elevated blood sugars.
Wow.
And when my blood sugars get elevated, it causes my Crohn's to flare up.
Wow. That's crazy.
So I try to avoid letting my blood sugars get too high. So I've experimented with different dosages of GH, and just 2 units 4 times a week on my training days at night really, really helps my recuperation, but it doesn't jack up my blood sugar, and I don't have any issues with digestion. Too much GH, and I start having problems you become insulin resistant.
What about insulin? Do you use insulin, or do you?
15 units Atlantis is the most I use in the morning. That's it. About 4 times a week. And
get a pump or something, or
what's that?
Just to get your muscles, the glucose.
No. Atlantis is the long acting. It's a 24-hour insulin. And for me, I find I can digest my food better, and I just hold on to more calories. So stuff's not just running right through me.
Oh.
I can eat more carbs, and it just doesn't run through me as fast. But if you go higher on the insulin, you will become insulin resistant very quickly.
Do you think insulin is what kind of went in a bad direction with the bodybuilders now? Because, like, where you're talking about all these guys from the golden era when you were really, in it, and those guys just looked amazing. Their bodies just looked beautiful, right? Like, freaking perfect abs, just like sculptures. And now they look like balloons or something,
because they're pushing too much growth hormone and too much insulin.
That's why?
Yeah, that's for sure why. Because it's going to put size on you, because you're going to store a lot of glycogen. It's also going to blow out your midsection, because you can only, first of all, if you take a whole bunch of growth hormone, a whole bunch of insulin, you still can only digest food so fast. So you're forcing your digestion to just try to digest, 10,000 calories or some ridiculous amount of food. There's it works for like putting on size, but you're going to blow out your stomach, just shoving all that food into your stomach all day long. And then you're going to become insulin resistant your body gets tolerant to the insulin that you're putting in. So you have to take more and more and more of it. And pretty soon that doesn't even work. And then the GH makes you insulin resistant. So pretty soon you can't digest your carbs anymore.
Wow.
So now what happens when you eat carbs, they're not digesting. So what happens when undigested carbs sit in your stomach? They ferment and turn into gas.
Wow.
That's blown out stomachs.
Wow. That's crazy.
So there was a time when I did regular insulin, and like after every workout, and I got big, but I also got a big stomach from it. And after a while, it's like the insulin didn't even work anymore.
Wow.
Like your body's going to regulate itself. And at first you're going to respond. It's going to be like amazing. I remember the first time I ever did insulin, some bodybuilder gave me a protocol right before a competition to do 10 units of Humalog with this cheat meal kind of thing the day before the show. And I had been dieting so hard and so strict for so long. And when I did that, it was like amazing. I just literally blew up right before my eyes, veins popping out everywhere, got hard.
Wow.
And everything.
Wow.
But that's because I was super insulin sensitive, because I'd been on low carbs and dieting for months.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do this all the time, your body's going to get tolerant to the insulin. It's not going to work. And then pretty soon, no matter how much insulin you take, it's just not going to, it's like literally it's not going to affect your blood sugar. Now you become insulin resistant. The GH is raising your blood sugars, and you can't digest your carbs anymore. So my solution to that is real low on the GH and real low on the insulin, and not all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying about that. Like how if you diet really strictly, you become super insulin sensitive, but if you use tons of insulin, you become like not or whatever. That's it's interesting how your body works like that. Like it's like,
well, because your body doesn't want to, look, initially your body doesn't recognize it, so it's just going to shove all that carbs in your muscles, and you're going to feel strong and full and blown up and all that stuff. But body's pretty smart, and it figures out I got too much insulin floating around in me, so it's going to down regulate your insulin receptors, and then you're become insulin resistant, and then the insulin doesn't work anymore. Now you can't digest your food. So now it's not even working.
Does the same thing happen with steroids?
No, it doesn't. You don't ever lose sensitivity to steroids. It doesn't work like that. What your body does with steroids is to try to offset the high androgens. It'll start producing a bunch of estrogen.
Oh.
And converting it to DHT and other things. But that's your body trying to compensate for too many androgens. It'll start producing estrogen or converting to estrogen and DHT to try to balance it all back out.
How did you learn all this stuff? Because you seem like really knowledgeable.
So a lot of trial and error and a lot of blood work. Like I get blood work every 3 months. And then I've also, worked with training clients and had them do different things. And I've trained with a lot of pros and a lot of people over the years, and I just study a lot. But I can tell you, I learned most of it from just experimenting on myself for 40 years and reading. And, I'll read something and then I'll try it and then I'll get blood work. And that verifies, that whether what I did and read was either correct or it was incorrect, depending on the outcome. Plus, I can see how my body's responding to certain things. I mean, I've used more growth hormone and more insulin, and I've seen what happens. Pretty soon, the growth hormone, the insulin is not working. I can't digest my food. My stomach's getting distended, and I'm not getting stronger.
Yeah.
And then you get blood work and you find out your blood sugar's all over the place and everything else is messed up. So, and I'm still trying to always learn more stuff. And there's so much information. The problem you have now, there's so much information on the internet, and some of it's right and some of it's wrong, and people got different opinions. So you really got to a lot of it has to do with experience. You got a lot of new people out there putting out stuff that there's a lot of these prep coaches now that they look like they never lifted a weight in their life, but they're prepping people for contests. I can't agree with this, because how do you know how to do something if you've never actually done it yourself? I can say I've probably competed, 100 times. So I've been through 100 contest preps. And even when I'm not getting ready for show, I'm still getting my blood work done, and I'm watching my diet, and I'm experimenting with my training and trying different things. And I've tried every different type of cycle that's known to man, different combination, different training regimens, whatever. And I found, what works and what doesn't work.
And DECA is the best.
I'm not going to say it's the best. I'm going to say overall, it's a good compound, because you're going to get the anabolic effect. It holds enough water so you can train hard and get a good pump, and keeps your joints and everything lubricated, so you're not tearing things and you're not tearing your muscles. I do think you need a little testosterone in there, just because it's part of, what you need to be a male. I don't think females need testosterone at all. It's just not necessary. There's enough androgens and DECA or Primo, whatever they're using. But yeah, as overall compound, I like EQ as well, but I don't think EQ is as good. If I had to pick one or the other, I would pick Dandrolone over EQ, because I think Dandrolone is stronger, and you get the benefits of it helps your joints and lubricates the muscle tissue, and you don't tear stuff.
Would you do them together?
I have done them together.
Did you like that?
Yeah, I do. It works good.
That's the way right there.
Yeah, actually, too much nandrolone, I think, can cause problems. Too much EQ can cause other problems, but if you cut it in half, I think they have a really good synergistic effect. Like, rather than going 600 milligrams of nandrolone and 600 milligrams of EQ, 300 milligrams of nandrolone and 300 milligrams of EQ is going to be way better.
And then like 500 tests or something?
Right now, like I do 300 milligrams of cypionate a week. And then pre-workout, I use test suspension, just 25 milligrams.
What about like Anavar? Do you put that in there too, or?
You know, I've tried Anavar my first cycle ever when I was 16 years old was Anavar. 6 milligrams a day. It was those cereal Anavar that came in 2 milligram little footballs. And I took 3 a day. And the bottle had 100 tabs in, so it lasted me 33 days, and I blew up on it. It was amazing. It was like the greatest thing. I thought I'd found the holy grail. Today, Anavar is too weak for me. It doesn't really do anything.
Really?
Yeah, I don't really get much out of it. I do like Turnaball, though. Really? Yeah.
Turnaball.
I like Turnaball because I get real strong from it. But it doesn't hold water. I really like Anadrol too, but Anadrol holds a little bit more water. But I don't use orals like often.
What about Primabolin? Do you like that? You said just pre-contest?
So Primabolin is very anabolic. So if you take it with something that aromatizes, then it's in the off season. It can be good for the anabolic effect, but you got to take an awful lot of it for it to work.
Really?
Yeah, like you got to take 800 milligrams of Primabolin to see a really good result.
What about the oral Primabolin? Do you like that?
You know, I haven't used that in so long, and I think probably for the cost, I wouldn't even bother with it.
Really?
So like I would use Primabolin pre-contest because, again, you want to be dry and you want to be estrogen free. So you have that dry, hard look. So that's great for a show. But if you compare Primabolin to, say, Nandrolone for building muscle, there's no comparison. Nandrolone's way stronger, and Primabolin's 3 times more expensive if it's real. So, like, why would you spend a bunch of money on Primabolin? I know people got this idea that it's like safer for some reason. I don't really believe that story. Unless you're somebody that like aromatizes everything at a super high rate and you got real problem with estrogen, I don't believe that. Which I think most people don't really have that. No, most people aren't that estrogen sensitive.
Yeah, you can manage it really easily, right? Like with Arimidex or something.
Well, actually, you know, I used to do that. I used to use Aromacin and Arimidex to manage my estrogen. And I found like 25 milligrams of Aromacin 3 times a week was keeping my estrogen at around 30 milligram or 30 deciliters, whatever it is, on the blood work. So January, I got COVID, went off everything and training and everything for 2 months straight because I couldn't go to the gym or do anything because I had COVID. I didn't get that sick. I just was quarantined. So I was concerned about the blood clotting things that you heard with COVID. So I just literally went off everything, completely off. And when I went back on, I went on real low dose. I'm talking like 100 milligrams of test a week. And I got, you know, some results for the first month of training, and then I kind of plateaued. So then I added in some nandrolone and some EQ. Since I didn't go back on the antiestrogens because they mess with your lipid profiles, and I wanted to see what my blood work would look like without the antiestrogens. So I haven't been on any antiestrogens since December last year. And I just got blood work done again, and my estrogen's at 30.
Wow.
So apparently my body's not converting.
Mm.
It's still at the same as it was with the antiestrogen. And I know the antiestrogen I was using was real. And you don't want to crash your estrogen either. You don't want your estrogen to be 0 because you need some.
What about prolactin? Because that, or whatever, that's what Deco can raise that, right?
So I
What
met
is that, or progesterone, or what is it?
progesterone.
Okay, progesterone.
And then you could take either Primapaxil or Cabergoline to block the prolactin. I know one guy that he can't take any nandrolone because it just immediately kills his libido, like any at all.
Even with test?
Yeah, even with tests.
Doesn't matter.
At least, but who knows what the hell is he doing and not telling me.
Yeah.
Right. But overall, I don't really believe that your body, in none of my blood work, I've never had high prolactin, whether I was using cabergoline or I wasn't. It's never been out of range. No matter what 19 Nors I was using, it's never been high. So I think that's very individual. And I think too many people just go with like, okay, this guy says take this stuff, or this is a cycle on the internet without getting their blood work done. So if you don't get your blood work done, how do you really even know if what you're using is effective or if you even need it?
So you're taking a Arimidex, you don't even need it, basically.
You probably don't even need it. Like right now, HRT clinic, someone prescribing somebody on 100 milligrams of testosterone a week with 2 tabs of Arimidex. You don't need Arimidex and 100 milligrams of testosterone. Any conversion you're going to get is going to be so small that it's not going to be harmful anyways.
Yeah, that's stupid. Yeah. Well, what about Proviron? Have you used Proviron?
I like Proviron.
Really? Why? What is it about Proviron?
The reason I like Proviron is not as an anti-estrogen because it blocks SBGH, which steroid hormone binding globulin. Means that more of your, like I just got my testosterone levels done on the dose that I told you. My total testosterone was 2,200 and my free testosterone was like 1,080.
Wow, yeah.
So the free testosterone is what's actually working, not your total. So you could have like a ton of total testosterone floating around in your system and it's not doing anything because it's all bound up. So Winstrol and Proviron block SBGH. And
they free the testosterone.
And frees up the testosterone.
Oh.
So you could take less testosterone and get more out of it.
But you said you don't like Winstrol, right?
I don't like Winstrol because it dehydrates you. It does make you strong because it makes more free testosterone. And it's great right before a show because it does make you hard really quick because it pulls all the estrogen out of your system. It dries you out. And I think if you see a lot of the injuries that bodybuilders get, they come right before show.
Yeah, always, yeah.
That's because you're all dehydrated. And there's one day that you need to be dehydrated on, and that's show day. Not the day before, not the week before, and especially not a month before.
Just the day before.
Just the day before. And you can do that just by, managing your sodium and your water and maybe taking a little bit of diazide. You don't need to be I back up. You don't want to be shredded 4 weeks out. You want to have low body fat, but you don't want to be all dry and freaking straight stage ready.
Because you'll be dying.
Because you're going to go in the gym and you're going to rip your body to pieces.
Mm.
Like I remember the first time I ever took Nostron in my life, it was like amazing. I took the shot at night. The next morning I was freaking shredded. Do you think I lost body fat overnight?
No.
No, it just pulled all the water out of me. I was shredded as hard as a rock, but you don't want to be training like that because you're going to rip things. When your muscles are all dry and dehydrated and they're freaking bound up like that, what do you think happens when you put them under heavy tension, under high intensity training? You're going to.
Yeah.
So I want to hold water. I'm not trying to look like I'm ready to step on stage, when I'm going to do heavy squats. I want to hold water, and I want that extra fluid in my muscles, in my joints, everything else, because it allows me to train and I'm not all freaking tight. And this is another thing. Since I haven't taken anti-estrogens, I'm not as tight. Like I did get deep tissue work, but before, when I was taking the anti-estrogens and DHT, man, it was like I was so tight all the time. I'd get a deep tissue work, stretch, everything. I was still tight. So every time I train, I felt like I was going to tear something. Now I don't, everything's loose. I don't feel like I'm going to tear anything. I haven't gotten any injuries. And part of this is, how long can you keep going without getting hurt? Because I've had some major injuries. Let me tell you, they set you back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of them, like I tore my tricep tendon. That's never going to be the same. It's just never going to be the same as it was before. So you need to think about, am I going to be able to do this for 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years without ripping my body to 1,000 pieces? And you can, but, not if you're putting the gas to. And by the way, I train hard every single training session. I've been doing that for 40 years.
Just not depleting the hell out of yourself and drying out.
Yeah, because that's what's going to cause injuries.
Now, when you first went into the gym, you saw Bertil Fox there like right away?
Yeah, the first time I went to, it was Gold's Gym in Reseda. And it was actually called Don Peters' Gym before it was Gold's. And I walked up to the front window and I seen these two ginormous shoulders and arms doing overhead dumbbell presses with like 140-pound dumbbells, just repping it out. And there was two white guys on the sides waiting to spot him on the dumbbells. And I thought to myself, that's a gorilla. They taught a gorilla to lift weight. Really, that's what I thought. I was like 13 years old. I'm like, it's a freaking gorilla there.
Wow.
And then he stood up and turned around. I'm like, wow, that's a man. That's the biggest man I've ever seen. And he was huge and crazy strong, insanely strong.
What was it like watching him train? Like, what
he trained really hard. I mean, he would do like a bench press and he'd have 225 with 45-pound plates. And then he'd have 4 more 35-pound plates all the way out to the end of the bar. And then, so it was probably starting around 500 pounds. And he'd do a big strip set and they'd pull a 35 off each side. He'd do like 5 reps, pull a 35 and he'd just keep going all the way back down to 225.
Dang.
And then he would do shoulder presses with like 140, 160-pound dumbbells, incline dumbbell curls with like 120-pound dumbbells.
Dang. All
the way up to his head. Crazy strong. And he would do dips and pull-ups with this apparatus that he'd load like 150 pounds on there and plates and do pull-ups and dips with it. So yeah, he trained hard. He was a beast.
Freak of nature.
Yeah. But he busted his ass in the gym.
Yeah.
And his shoulders and arms were just crazy huge. He always trained covered up in a sweatshirt, and he looked like the seams were going to bust. He was going to blow out his sweatshirt every time he lifted.
That's cool, man. Well, who were some other people that were super impressive that you got to see?
Well, all the pros were training back then. I mean, everybody was training.
Who trained like the hardest? Like who's a guy like that guy sounds like he's pretty impressive. Who's someone else that you were like, damn, that guy trains hard?
Probably Tom Platz.
Oh, so you watched Tom Platz train?
Yeah, he trained really hard.
Wow. I love hearing him talk about training. Like he makes it this crazy, like spiritual thing, you know?
It kind of is when you go to that level. I mean, when you go to that level of intensity, you're like in another place. Like I go to a different place when I'm doing like a really intense set of like legs. Like I'm in another place. I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah.
Almost like I'm watching myself do this.
Wow.
You know? Like I'm doing it, but I'm like I've already gone through my rehearsed the whole set in my head and how it was going to go. And then I'm like standing back and watching a video of myself going through this thing.
Wow. That's interesting, man.
Like I don't even feel like I'm feeling the pain, but I'm not really feeling it at that moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's burning going on and stuff like that. But until I rack the weight and put it down, I'm not really feeling it. I'm so focused. I'm not feeling any of that till the set's over. And then I'm about collapse.
Like an out of body experience. Huh?
Yeah, it is really like that. On only certain things, you know. I can't get that. Like I can do a set of dumbbell curls to all out failure and strip set and as hard as I can. And yeah, I'm working hard, but it's not that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's not that. But on a set of deadlifts or heavy set of legs on a leg press or squat or hack squat, or even on a really hard, heavy set of one-arm dumbbell rows with 200-pound dumbbells, yeah, it'll put you in a different place.
Now, do you have, especially with your crazy life that you had, like going through all this insane stuff and just living this really, you know, interesting life, do you have like faith in God or anything like that? Like is that part of your life at all? I thought that was interesting that Mike was.
I've always had that, but I'm not like super ultra religious. Like I don't do everything I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
But it's always been there. I was raised that way.
Yeah, that was the side of it, you know, because I love Mike Mentzer, but I never really liked his whole, philosophical stuff. You know, he's an atheist guy, and he was like into Ayn Rand, you know, who I just personally I never thought was that great of a philosopher or whatever, you know. But he's like all into that, you know. Like I love his training stuff, but then his philosophical stuff, I was always like, man.
You know, I never really got really into that with him. I know he was into it. I never studied it. I know he was super smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too smart. And I mean, kind of a crazy way, crazy smart. You know, some people are like manic and they're sort of insane, but they're intelligent. He was like that.
Yeah.
So he was super smart, but like maybe even too smart for his own good.
Yeah. I mean, I think it could torture you even, you know. I know that Arthur Jones, like some of the stuff that Arthur Jones wrote was like mind-blowing because he, you know, I remember like reading a quote that he had that was like, imagine living in a world, this is what he said. He goes, imagine living in a world full of malicious, retarded chimpanzees that want to do only evil, right? And then he said, don't laugh because you're one of those chimpanzees. And like for him, he like everybody was just like retarded, you know what I mean? Like he was so smart. It's like everyone's a bunch of freaking idiots, you know. And I think it tortured him.
I can understand what he means by that, because honestly, I own a gym and I have all kinds of members, and I can tell you there's some people, it's like the stuff they want to argue about. It's like, I'm not going to get into this argument with you because it's not worth my thinking to argue with you over why your credit card declined.
Yeah.
You know, they're just so low on the totem pole of thinking, you know?
Yeah.
So I can get that. I can deal with all kinds of people, but there's some people I prefer not to. I just try to avoid them because I don't want to get into those discussions.
Yeah,
You know?
no, absolutely. Yeah, that's a perfect example right there, man. Yeah, people on a different they're on a different wavelength. It's like,
Yeah,
man, I don't want to hear your story.
I had one guy,
Figure
he's
it
a
out.
big bodybuilder guy, and his credit card declined and so he had a card key turned off, and he's bitching a storm at me. And I looked at his account. I'm like, your credit card declined. What do you want me to do about it? You put money on your account. What can I tell you?
Yeah, call the bank, man. Why are you talking to me?
That's what I have nothing to do with this.
You didn't pay your bill. It's not paid.
Yeah, I have nothing to do with this. That's on your end, man.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is. I do understand what Arthur Jones meant, because sometimes I feel that way.
Yeah.
But I just try to avoid those things.
So now, do you coach a lot of people? I mean, what do you do now? Like, you're obviously training hard. You own a gym. Do you work with a lot of people? Do you do any online coaching or?
So I mostly have trainers that do most of the training. I do a little bit of online coaching, and I do a little bit of in-person training. When I say a little bit is I won't take on a training client if I think they're going to be a pain in the ass. Like, at all. It's just not worth it to me. I don't need the money that bad. If someone's really motivated, I don't care if they're a brand new beginner and they're just starting from scratch, or if they've been training for a long time. If they're serious and they want to work hard and they're dedicated, I'll work with them. But if they give me any shit, right from the beginning, like they don't want to follow the diet, they don't want to train this hard, whatever, it's like, I'll send them to a trainer. I don't have patience for it. It's just not worth it to me. And I've been training people for a long, long time. So, you know, there's certain type of people I can recognize pretty quickly, you know, if they're serious and they're going to, and like I said, I don't care if they've never lifted a weight in their life or they're a pro. If they're not going to follow what I'm going to tell them, then why am I wasting my time telling them?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've had even pro bodybuilders that they don't want to listen. It's like, okay, then do your own thing. Don't ask me.
Why'd you ask?
You know, why you're asking me, you're not going to listen anyways.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people with a lot of potential that go nowhere because they don't want to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't want to do the nutrition. They don't want to put in the work in the gym. They're not going to get results. And I've seen other people that they just want to stay in shape or get in shape, and they come in and they put in the work. And so they get results. You know, I'm real impressed with this Nick Walker guy, this new guy that come out. And a lot of people talk crap about him, like structurally, he's not perfect and whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm impressed with him. He puts in the work.
Yeah.
He's dedicated. He puts in the work. He sticks to his diet. He puts in the work in the gym, and it shows on stage. Why he won and why he's going to keep winning.
Yeah, he killed that last show, man. He came out and just.
And I watched his training all the way through, and I met him. He's a real cool young guy. He's humble, and he puts in the work, and he doesn't mess around. He's not playing. So it pays off. I see other people with amazing potential. They don't ever get anywhere. They don't want to put in the work.
Have you heard of Justin Shear by any chance? Are you familiar with that?
No, name's not familiar.
He's working with it's Matt Jansen, right? Matt Jansen, is that Nick Walker?
Yeah, the Matt Jansen's what trains Nick Walker.
Yeah, so Justin Shear is working with Matt Jansen now, and he's a local guy from where I'm from. I'm in Oregon. I'm in Medford, Oregon. He lives in Grants Pass, and I think he's gonna go pro pretty soon. He's pretty impressive guy. You know, I'm trying to go train with the guy actually. he owns a gym in Grants Pass, so I'm gonna go up there and try to work out with him, you know. But yeah, but same on those lines as Nick Walker, you know, like I mean he's not as big as Nick Walker, but I think he's heading that way.
But like I said, you know, I've seen people with amazing genetics and all the potential in the world and they never go anywhere.
Yeah.
I've seen other people that look, Rich Gasperi, he didn't have the greatest structure. He didn't have the greatest genetics. He got second in Olympia several years in a row because he put in the work.
Well, it's weird because you have you mentioned Victor Richards. That's a guy that it's like, dude, like.
Well, that guy barely even trained.
But he probably could have been the greatest bodybuilder of all time, probably, right?
Genetically, yeah, but he just, I'm telling you, I'd be in the gym with him. He would do a set of squats with 225 pounds. I mean, you're talking a guy with 36-inch legs.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, do a set of squats with 225, then sit around, talk for 10 minutes, then go do a set of bench press and talk for 20 minutes, then go do a set of curls, then go.
No way.
Yeah, for real. I used to drive him to the gym when we were a teenager because he didn't have a car. And we both lived in the valley. So I drive him over Worlds and Golds. And I'd be there training my ass off and he'd be fucking around. And he was the biggest dude in the gym. Barely even tried.
All genetics.
All genetics.
Wow, that's so interesting.
All he took was DECA.
Really?
Yeah. That's all he took.
He's another one of these DECA guys.
Yep. Just DECA. And he was huge.
Yeah. Greg Valentino said that if you cut his thigh in half, he's like, it'd be the size of a 45-pound plate. Like that's how
he was huge, like ginormous. Like by today's standards, he was huge. But he didn't have the heart. You know,
he looked good too. I mean, he didn't look bad. He had a small waist and he didn't look like a blown out, you know, one of these guys.
He just had no confidence in himself.
Really?
That's why he didn't compete after that junior Cal. He just had no confidence in himself. He was too scared to lose. And I think he didn't like to diet. So I don't know if he could ever really actually at that junior Cal, for those days, he was in pretty good condition. So I think he just didn't want to diet and he was too scared. He had no confidence in himself. He was just genetics.
Wow. That is so interesting. You know, like what you're talking about, you know, with people.
Look, I have a bulldog. He's 130 pounds. He looks like a mutant. He sleeps most of the day.
Yeah.
His exercise consists of a walk on the beach and he eats. And he's just genetic freak. Got a 26-inch neck.
Damn. Yeah, exactly.
You probably hear him snoring right now next to my feet right now.
Yeah.
It's just some people are that way. You know, some people just have that. They can just barely lift weights and grow. But I think you're not going to get to a top level, like conditioning wise and size and everything else, if you're not going to put in the work.
Yeah, the stuff I've heard listening to other podcasts is like Big Ramy, they say, is like what his coach said was that he has the most efficient system he's ever seen of any human being. Like he's like, this guy, if you give him carbohydrates, like his body uses all of it. Like, woof, like you know what I mean? Like you carve him up.
He's like a Nasser. If he didn't lift weights and he wasn't a bodybuilder, he'd probably be a big fat guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he can diet. Like they had to literally starve him to get him in that condition, but he didn't lose any muscle. He holds on to every bit of muscle.
He just doesn't lose muscle.
No. Long as he trains and takes whatever gear he's taken, he doesn't lose any muscle. Whereas, you know, other people, if they probably starved him that hard as he did to get in that condition, they would lose a lot of muscle.
Yeah.
He doesn't go catabolic. Like his body's super efficient. He uses every single calorie that goes in there.
Yeah. Yeah, because he said they had to really keep the carbs low, like, because he's kind of, Chad Nichols, I think, is really known for carbing guys up a lot. And he was like, you can't do that with Big Ramy because he'll just overfill so fast. Like, you know, you just give him a little bit of carbs and the dude is freaking insane.
some people are that way. He's a genetic freak.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's a guy who you can cardio and starve him to death, and he's going to just get better. So everybody's different depending on their metabolism. You know, someone like me, that's not going to work.
That ain't gonna work. Yeah.
No, I'll turn anorexic.
Do you prefer open bodybuilding these days, or do you like classic physique, or you know, because they seem a little bit more like the old golden era bodybuilders. At least I really like Chris Bumstead. I think that guy's great.
I mean, I like the look, but honestly, I'm kind of old school. The first time I saw not classic physique, but regular physique in the board shorts.
Oh my God, dude.
At the LA Fit Expo, and I was walking through there and I turned to the side and I saw that. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What is that? Like, what is this? That you don't have to train your legs?
What's the point? Yeah.
And
it's like modeling or something, kind of, you know?
Yeah, it just doesn't, I just, to me, that was just like an abomination.
I was really surprised because this bodybuilding competition I just did, there was more of those guys than any other division. That was the most popular class.
Yeah, because you don't have to freaking train your legs, which is nothing's harder than training legs. If you don't have to train your legs, that's the hardest thing to train.
Oh,
so
that's a good point.
I've seen guys in prison that had amazing upper bodies and legs like sticks. So they just train their upper bodies. They don't want to train legs.
Mm.
You know, doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan really. I mean, whatever, you know, if that's what you want to do.
Legs is my favorite thing to train because it's the hardest thing to train. And back is my second favorite thing to train because it's the second hardest thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Arms are I do train my arms, but they're the most boring thing for me to train because they're the easiest.
Well, what was it like watching Tom Platz train legs?
It was high intensity to failure, and he did a lot of like partial reps at the end.
Oh,
you know, he kind of followed Mike Mentzer, except he did, you know, free weight squats. But it was a high intensity training, pretty much like Mike Mentzer training. But instead of he did force reps negatives, he did all that stuff, but he also did a lot of partial reps.
Did you see him do some pretty crazy sets on the squats?
I remember him doing like crazy high reps with like 225. He'd squat it for like 10 minutes straight for like 100 reps.
Really?
Yeah. I actually tried that before. I did it for a little while. It was like I do a heavy squat workout, and then later in the week I did do just that. I did 225 for as many reps as I could. That's one set.
Did you ever get 100?
No, I don't think I ever made it to 100, but I think I did a competition when I was younger. It was like a body weight for rep competition that they were having at the gym I was training at. And I weighed 230 and I squatted it, I think it was 67 times.
Wow. That's
nuts. When I stopped, it was because my legs were so pumped, I just couldn't even move any longer.
Yeah.
It wasn't because I couldn't lift the weight. I just couldn't even move anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got 67 reps out of it. And I got beat by a guy who was a track star. He weighed like 100 pounds and he squatted 100 reps for like 120 times.
That's hilarious. Oh man. Yeah.
I think I actually kept up with him on almost everything else. But yeah, but I used to do that. I take 225 and just squat like nonstop for just one set to failure.
I've tried to do that, but once I get to like 30, man, I'm just like, dude, this is just not working out for me. Like,
I think it's great. I think it's great for endurance. I don't know how much muscle building it does, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because I always did my heavy lifting on a different day. It was just, I actually did that just because Tom Platz did it back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
If Tom Platz did it, I'll do it too.
Yeah. He probably just had some crazy genetics for legs too. I mean, that's probably
no. Oh, of course he did. You don't get legs like that without it.
Yeah.
But he would do like pull-ups and then he would go to failure, and then he'd do partial reps, and then he'd get to the part where he'd be like literally hanging from the bar and just like twitching.
Wow.
Trying to get the last muscle fiber to fire.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So he trained, but he did force reps negatives. He did all that stuff. I think he kind of copied Mike Mentzer to an extent, but he had his own little spin on it.
Yeah.
Just like Dorian Yates, he was a Mike Mentzer protege, but he had his own little spin on it, but it was pretty much the same sort of training.
Yeah. Yeah, the working up to the main set. Well, it's funny because if you think about it, even really he didn't label it that way at all. But if you look at how he trained, Ronnie Coleman trained that way because he would do.
So this is an interesting thing because and Chad Nichols tried to blast me for this.
Really?
But, yeah. I was at Nationals and I think it was 2004. I just competed. And after the show, I was like walking on this boardwalk and I saw Ronnie there. And he was just looking huge, ginormous. And I walked straight up to him because I've been training for a long time and I just wasn't getting 300 pounds. The heaviest I've ever been was 250 because I just couldn't get bigger than that. And I asked him, I said, so what is it that I'm not doing right? And he said, look at the training of Dorian Yates. And I'm like, really?
Ronnie said that?
Yeah, he goes, look at the training of Dorian Yates. And I was like, wow, like, why would he not say, look at my training? He said, look at Dorian Yates' training. But if you think about it, so Ronnie did more free weights and less machines, but he still worked up to like an all-out set to failure.
Yeah, every set, every exercise he did that.
Mm-hmm. Real heavy. And don't tell me he did 20 sets like that. Nobody can do that.
No, you can watch the videos. I mean, he did a couple warm-up sets, probably like 3, and then boom, all out, max out. And that was record breaker. It was like a record for him.
Right. So yeah, he did a different exercise selection, but still he trained pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
And I said that on a message board and Chad Nichols blasted me and said, Ronnie's training was nothing like Dorian Yates.
How can you say that?
Well, because Dorian used Nautilus machines and not as many free weights, and Ronnie did more free weights and didn't use so many Nautilus machines. But, I don't care, exercise selection, whatever you want to call it, the training style was still the same, pretty much.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, Ronnie did more drop sets instead of force reps and negatives for the same reason I said I do it. But he still did that all-out set to failure at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't care who you are, you can only do one set that way.
Yeah, there's no way you could do it twice.
No, you can't. There's no way you can do it twice. It's impossible. You could do it again, but you're not going to get the same amount of reps and the same. There's just no way. You're shot out after that one.
You're smoked. Yeah.
Yeah, you're smoked. If you really went all the way to failure, completely, totally, and annihilated yourself on that set, you're not doing another one of those.
Yeah, and Ronnie never did. Like with the dumbbells, he went up. He did his final set was the 200-pound dumbbells for 12, and that was done.
And done. Because if he did another set with 200 pounds, it would have been 8.
Yeah.
The set would have been 6. And at that point, you're not going anywhere. You already stimulated the growth. It's done.
It's done.
Now you're getting into your recuperation.
So he actually said that to you. Ronnie did. This is personal.
He said it to me in person at a restaurant on a boardwalk in Miami.
Wow.
And I've told people, I said that story on a message board and I just got blasted for it, but whatever, that came out of his mouth.
Yeah, man.
I still stand by that. Like I said, if you look at the training, maybe Dorian did an under grip barbell row and he did a T-bar row, but still it was working up to that one all out set to failure.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing as Mike Mentzer. I mean, it goes back to him.
Well, it just goes back to, it's just physiology, if you really push that last set to failure and beyond failure with everything you got, you can't do more sets than that. There's just, it's physically not possible. Don't tell me you're going to do 5 sets like that.
No
and
way.
Tell me they can, I'll prove you wrong.
Yeah, let's just watch it.
No, I'll put $1,000 on it. I'll put you through that set. Then you show me you could do another one.
Yeah.
There's no way you're not going to be able to, because you're going to be done after that. I don't care what kind of endurance athlete or how long you've been training. When you've pushed it to 100%, everything you got in you, you can't repeat that. At least not on the same day immediately.
No, it's not possible.
Now, if you are training with 80% of your max and you're cutting the set short because you're not really putting everything into it, sure, you can do a bunch of sets like that.
That's different. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not working that hard.
Yeah.
Tell you, this is an interesting thing. This happened literally a week ago. I started training legs and I was going to do hack squats. And I usually do work up to the hack squat machine I have. It's pretty heavy, the weight, because of the angle of it. But I work up to 10 plates. I do a set of 10 reps, and then I do my drop set with 12 plates. Well, I did my set of 10 reps, and then I got a phone call. There was an emergency. Something happened. I had to leave right before I was going to do my all-out maximum set. I didn't finish the workout, which is this is something that never happens, but it did. I did not even get sore from that. I did the leg extension, leg curls, warm-ups. I worked up to the set of 10 with the 5 plates. I didn't feel like I even worked out the next day. I had no soreness in my legs. I wasn't even tired. I didn't even feel like I even worked out. This week, I did that maximum all-out set on that, and then I did a maximum all-out set on the leg press, and I am crippled.
Yeah.
I was hobbling out of the gym. And today I'm like beat up, which is why I always train legs on Saturday, because I need Sunday to recover.
Wow.
Sunday is a day to just do laundry and eat and lay around and just recover, because I'm like good for nothing.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's how you schedule it so you can just do nothing the next day. That's awesome.
Yeah, because I'm worthless after that. I mean, anything physical, if I had to walk around at work all day, it's not happening.
No way. Yeah, it'd kill you. Yeah. Do you have any other like funny stories about Nasser? Because I just really enjoy Nasser, and I've heard all these different rumors about him too, that he was like the kind of guy that would like try to hook up with your girlfriend behind your back and stuff like that. Like, did he do stuff like that, or or he messed around with people and made them think he was working at Walmart or something, or just crazy stuff?
Nah, for me it was like we were in contest prep, so he was very serious. He did not have any respect for women at all. Like, at the time I was married to this hot blonde chick, and like he didn't like her. I told him I got a really good support system with her, and he was like, yeah, you think so? Like, he does not respect women. I think it's a Middle Eastern culture or whatever it is.
Yeah,
it's a thing to use for him. But because we were in contest prep, like when I was training with him, he was always very serious about everything. And like I said, he was a little bit bitter. I mean, I hung out with him. We went to sushi and everything. I got along with him because I'm kind of used to bodybuilders being that way.
Yeah.
I kind of grew up around it, so it doesn't really bother me.
Was he a really smart guy?
I would say, yeah, he was very knowledgeable. Yeah. But like, he would take everything to the extreme. And like, he over dieted and overtrained me, and it just didn't work for me. And his training was like really high volume and very fast pace with like medium weight. That didn't work for me either.
Yeah.
Lost a ton of muscle training with him. So, I mean, it worked for him because he has a different metabolism.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, because when I trained with him, we really didn't lift anything really heavy. It was always really fast paced, high volume, a lot of pumping. I did learn some cool exercises from him. A lot of different angles and different movements and things. But like his style of training, it just didn't work for me at all.
It's so interesting because he looks so strong. You know, it just physically, he looks like you train really heavy.
Yeah, but he didn't. And I know people say that, and probably heavy is relative. I mean, yeah, he was so big and he had so much muscle that he could move some weight around. But for the most part, his training was very fat. He trained like Jay Cutler more.
Wow.
You know, high volume,
Pumping.
fast pace, lot of sets, a lot of reps. And is always moving very quickly. I'm sure he had amazing cardio because he did cardio for, like I said, an hour every morning, forever.
Yeah, that's crazy especially because he was such a big guy.
But like I said, he was probably super efficient, like a Rami. So he could hold on to every single calorie.
Those Egyptian guys.
Maybe it had something to do with that, but I'm saying they can hold on to every single calorie and not lose anything.
Because how big was he, like, when you knew him? Was he like 300 pounds?
No, not at all. He was big, but not. He told me that he had been up to 300 pounds, and I remember I said, "Really?" Because when I met him, I just ran into him at World Gym in San Diego, and I knew of him, but I didn't really I wasn't a fan or studied him. We just met, and I told him I was getting ready for a competition, and he took a look at me and he said he thought I could do well, and he offered to train me. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. At the time I was living in LA, and I was driving down to San Diego 3 times a week just to train with him. And then the last month, I just got a hotel and stayed down there.
Wow.
Just with him. And, but when I was training with him, like, he had still big arms and shoulders, but no, he wasn't like huge. He was probably 250.
Wow.
But always in good shape. But like I said, his training was like really high volume, fast paced, just different.
Yeah, I remember I actually met him. I went to the 2005 Mr. Olympia, and there was like the expo thing, and Nasser was there. They used to do the company like Celtech, I think, or whatever that company. They used to do like this 225 for reps bench press competition, and Nasser was like in it or something. And I remember like watching him, and he did 225, and he only got like 12 reps, and I was like, man, I think something's wrong with him, like he's sick or something. Because I knew he obviously was a lot stronger than that, but I don't
know what was going on with that, because like I said, he was used to doing a lot of volume. Yeah. I couldn't speak on that, because I remember when I first trained with him, it was hard for me to keep up, just the pace. Really? I got used to it, but initially I remember the first workout, it was just like, man, this guy just doesn't stop. There was like no rest. Like, he would go, I would go, he would go, I would go. You just keep going, fast, fast, fast.
Yeah.
No breaks.
You're like, where's Victor Richards, man? I want to work out that guy.
No, I wasn't thinking that. I'm sort of like, it depends on what I'm training, Like, if I'm training smaller body parts like arms, shoulders, or whatever, I'll probably only take a minute rest between sets, if that. But big body parts like back, legs, heavy pressing, chest pressing, I might take 3 minutes, 4 minutes between sets, depending on how hard I'm going.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't see a virtue in like doing a super fast paced workout necessarily.
I mean, I can do it both ways, but if I want to lift the weight that I want to lift for the amount of reps I want to get, it's not going to work if I try to go like too quick.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just not going to I'm not going to be able to lift the weight for the amount of reps that I want to get. So
you're burning yourself out in the warm up.
Well, I'm just tired cardiovascularly, and also it takes time for your muscles to recover from the sets before you do it. So like I'll do my 80% set with whatever weight, and then I may take 5 minutes before I do my all out set, you know, because I want to be fully into be able to do that 100%. And if I did that 80% set and I 2 minutes later jump into there, I'm probably not going to be able to get what I want out of it.
Yeah, that's the one that counts. So
that's everything in my workout is geared towards that set, because that's the one that's going to build the muscle.
Yeah,
the one that you're going to get the growth from. So everything is preparing for that set. Like literally everything from my calisthenics to the stretching to everything I do leading up to that is preparing for that one set.
Yeah.
That's where the growth is going to happen.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like you said, that story about your leg workout, like when you didn't do your main set, nothing happened. But then you do the main set, you can't walk. Yeah.
Yeah. Like nothing, literally like after I worked out, I like went and did the stuff I had to do, and then went grocery shopping and did a bunch of other stuff that I could never go grocery shopping after training legs normally. You know, I'm like, I go lay down on a couch somewhere and just can't move. But because I just skipped, I didn't finish that main last heavy set. That's the one that just does it.
It's the only one that counts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you're there to do. Yeah. That's what it's all about. Yeah.
And I think most people don't ever get to that level. They either don't know how, don't have the heart to do it, or like I have one kid, he's a bodybuilder and he's pretty good. He's strong as hell, but I made him puke on a leg workout about 3 weeks ago and he hasn't been back since.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's interesting because some people, they just don't have the desire even, you know. I remember when I was really young, I was so into bodybuilding. I just loved it. You know, I was like, this is what I want to do. And I would do these crazy workouts. Like I read Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding or whatever, or the Education of the Bodybuilder book that he had. And he's like, me and Franco used to go in the woods and squat for 8 hours, right?
Yeah, I remember that story.
So I would do that. I'd go to the gym and I'd be like, I'm going to do squats for 8 hours. And I had this guy that he was a football player, and the dude had the biggest freaking legs I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, just genetics. Like his thighs were, I don't know, dude. I mean, they were like 40-inch freaking quads. Like I'm talking like just these massive legs. And he would do these workouts with me, but he hated it, you know. Like I loved it. I would be sick from these workouts. Like I would be not, like I had the flu for like a week.
See, I live for that set.
Yeah.
Like I freaking live for that. Like that's like,
yeah.
I plan my whole freaking day around that.
Yeah.
Day before around that.
See, this guy though, he hated it, but he had way more potential.
I know a guy right now, I'm not going to say his name, but he's a freaking pro and he should be on the Olympia stage. And he'll train freaking hard for 2 or 3 weeks and then he'd stop. And just fucking back off. And then, you know, he trained with me for 3 months and then he freaking went off on his own, did his own shit. And then, you know, he'll train hard for 2 or 3 weeks and then he'll either stop training or he'll just back off on the intensity and do some Jane Fonda type bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard for me to watch that because I'm like, man, if you just fucking put your head into it, you could be like
Mr. Olympia or something. Yeah.
Maybe not Mr. Olympia, but at least competing.
Yeah.
You could be on a pro stage, winning pro shows and probably placing, you know, pretty high up there if you just freaking get your head straight and focus. But I don't know. Not everybody you never know what's going through people's minds, but I can tell you, I've trained with enough people that most people, like, they just don't want to work that hard.
Yeah.
They just don't. I mean, everybody says they will, but when they actually comes down to doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and then everybody can come in and do it once.
Yeah.
Try to come in and do it every week, week in, week out, month in, month out for years.
Yeah, that's what Dorian Yates said. He's like, I did the hardest workout of my life, every workout for 12 years straight, you know?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Every workout is everything you got. And not just right before a contest or right, for a month, all year long, for years and years and years.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting listening to Dorian talk, because he said he was trying to create this perfect environment for muscle growth for bodybuilding, so that he could have these workouts and he could rest properly and eat. And he said like a month before the Mr. Olympias, he would get his own apartment away from his family. So he didn't even have to like deal with his wife or anything. I was like, that's crazy, man. Like,
well, I kind of like set my life up like that because I own a gym. So I can like really schedule my whole thing around my training.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do have to work, but I can schedule everything around my training. And I have everything right there that I need. I have my refrigerator, my food, everything I need is right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the perfect environment.
Yeah.
To be a bodybuilder. Yeah. That's what it is. It's crazy because it's like there's so much more to it. I think the training is probably the most important thing, but there's all these other factors that go with it too, like the rest and recovery. And nutrition.
Oh yeah. If you don't get enough sleep, you're not gonna recover. You're not gonna be able to train. Sleep is super important. If you don't eat enough, you're not going to be able to recover. You're not going to make progress.
Yeah, it's crazy to hear about guys like Chris Cormier. I guess he used to just party all the time and he looked phenomenal, but apparently he was way shy of his potential.
There's a million people like that could have been. A million people like that. I could just run off a list of all the people that could have been Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
But they weren't committed, and the ones that were ended up being Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, yeah.
Not everybody has the genetics to be at that level, but there's a lot of people that had the genetics to be at that level that just never materialized.
Yeah.
If I could put my brain into this kid's head, he'd be fucking top 10 of Olympia next year.
Wow.
Like, no doubt, because he has the genetics. Just doesn't put in the work.
You don't want that discomfort.
Just at me. He's gonna know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Hey, nobody else knows, bro. Well, maybe some people in your gym. Yeah, I know who he's talking about.
He's gonna be like, "Fuck you, man."
Maybe, hopefully, he'll go train with you, man.
He's trained with me before.
Hopefully, he comes back. Maybe he'll get through to him. I don't know. Yeah. Probably not. But shoot, man. I think that's a good place right there to wrap this one up. Thank you so much, man. I really, really enjoyed that. You're super smart guy. And, I think people can learn a ton from you. I'd love to do this again with you, man. If you ever want to do it, or if you're willing to
just let me know.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. So thank you very much, brother. And enjoy the rest of your day. I'm sure that you got to eat at this point, man.
Yeah, I'm hungry. Yeah, it's time.
All right, bro. Go eat some food, man. Thank you.
All right. Let me know when this is going to air.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send it to you. Right away.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
All right, bro. Thank you.
Thanks.